Welcome back to the third episode of our Koi no Katachi podcast. Like always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Patrick Wawaruntu.
And I'm your other co-host, Colin McCutcheon.
Last episode, we talked about the scenes revolving around the bullying of Shoko and then the bullying to Shoya. This episode, we are off to another analysis.
Throughout the film, the character with the most screen time is Shoya, but the film focuses just as much on Shoko developing a sense of self-acceptance as it does on Shoya's self-forgiveness development. In this episode, we will be focusing on the scene when Shoko attempts a suicide and part of the scene directly leading up to it and directly after it. This scene occurs well after Shoya first attempts to make amends with Shoko, and at this point, Shoya and Shoko are good friends.
Yeah, and the emotional climax of the film occurs during this scene, which is set in a local festival that both Shoya and Shoko attend together with Shoko's family. For an initially undisclosed reason, Shoko makes an excuse to head home after the fireworks start. She is then followed by Shoya, who needs to get something from her apartment. Shoya notices that Shoko is about to fall off her balcony when he arrives at the apartment, leading him to rush to stop her. Shoya saves Shoko's life in this action, but pays the cost of himself falling into the river. The emotional density of this scene is heightened by the intensifying set of notes played on what seems to be a xylophone that develops into a crescendo, mirroring the emotional height of the climax, followed by soft, spaced out piano notes that represent Shoya's subsequent reflections on the merits of his own development.
Yeah, so to start off with, the music in the very beginning of the scene is very sparse to Shoko's apartment, and it's really done in this way to instill a sense of safety and a lack of, I guess, suspense in what is about to happen. You don't know what's going to happen yet, but as the notes of the xylophone, if that's the instrument, get closer and closer together and the tempo increases, the audience starts to feel a sense of, I guess, suspense or about what could happen when he finally arrives at the apartment, which is building up to the eventual reveal that Shoya or Shoko is trying to attempt suicide.
Yeah, all the adding instruments creates a sort of Discord feel to convey Shoya's emotions as he sees what he thinks is gonna happen to Shoko, and he starts to the adrenaline in him starts to build up, just showing his worry for Shoko. Oh. Yeah, this all culminates into a sudden stop, a pause in the music right as Shoko jumps off the balcony.
Yeah, and kind of analyzing or explaining the fact of this is a quote from the Oxford Music Online database, and it is, historically and in the most general sense, the pause is a sign for one part to pay attention to the others rather than to the beat.
Yeah, and in this situation, the pause is a sign for not really the entire part of the audience to pay attention to what's going on screen, because this is the emotional climax for Shoko, where she has this very dangerous situation that culminated over years or a long time of suffering.
Yeah, and shortly after it's revealed that Shoko did not actually fall to her death, but is captured by Shoya's hand, a different track starts from part of the film score, and the only instrument in this track is a piano.
It follows the theme of the sparse notes.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the beginning of the previous track, where it's very, I guess, disorganized, and there's no distinct melody that you can identify, and this kind of disorder kind of represents the conflict that happens within Shoya's own mind as he realizes that a lot of his development up to this point doesn't hold a lot of merit because he hasn't really considered how Shoko feels in all of this. He's kind of been focusing on his own feelings, and he's never realized that Shoko could even reach an emotional point where she would consider suicide. While Shoya manages to save Shoko, he falls to the water in her stead. When Shoya hits the water, the underlying piano notes remain constant, but are put under a filter that presents the notes as if they are being heard from Shoya's ears under the water. This diegetic effect on the non-diegetic piano not only immerses the audience into the scene, it also relays how Shoya's senses are muffled and how he's slowly losing consciousness. At the end of the scene, there are a few seconds when no note is played, while Shoya loses consciousness, leaving the audience to wonder in relative silence whether Shoya has fundamentally changed at all from his old self.
Thanks for watching this episode of our podcast. Be sure to watch our next episode as well.